Tonight, Turkish forces are massed on the country's southern border. Turkish officials say preparations are complete for a cross-border assault against U.S. allies, the Kurds of Syria. The buildup comes after President Trump announced a plan to pull U.S. troops out of the area. New video showing some already moving back. U.S. officials tell NBC News for now, U.S. troops will remain in the country, but won't confront Turkish forces should they launch the assault. After fierce backlash from many Republicans who call his decision a betrayal of U.S. allies, the president today tweeting, "In no way have we abandoned the Kurds."
We've told Turkey, I spoke with President Erdogan of Turkey, and I said, got to treat him good, you got to take care of ISIS.
But the people in the crosshairs of the impending Turkish assault are protesting, desperately appealing for help. The Kurds have been fighting against ISIS with U.S. Special Operations Forces and have created an autonomous enclave in Syria, which Turkey wants to destroy. A Kurdish official today tweeting, "If America leaves, all will be erased." Turkey's specific goal is to create a buffer zone 20 miles deep, 250 miles long along its border inside Syria. President Erdogan showed a map of the area at the UN last month. And Erdogan doesn't want to just occupy the area. He wants to settle it with 2 million non-Kurds, Arab refugees. The Kurds say it's ethnic cleansing in the making, which they accuse President Trump of allowing.
As everyone here in Turkey tonight is now watching to see if or when this country launches its assault, today President Trump confirmed he invited Turkey's president to the White House.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.